Hello, everyone. I think I'm live. Um, Happy Saturday. I'm really excited to be here. And I am Denise Fitzpatrick, and I am a former therapist turned marriage coach. And I help couples end painful relationship patterns so they can reconnect with their spouse and enjoy being married and enjoy their life again. So if you're watching right now and let me know where you're watching from. Drop me a comment. Let me know, are you married and watching? Drop a one in the comments and let me know. Because today we're going to be talking about the two critical shifts that you can make that will change your marriage for good. So let me know, is that something you guys are looking for? Are you wanting some change in your marriage, some transformation? Because I've got some critical shifts that I'm going to share with you today that can absolutely make a difference for you. So again, Denise Fitzpatrick, I am a former therapist of 17 years, turned marriage coach, and I help couples, and I also work with women individually to help them end the painful relationship patterns that they've been stuck in so they can reconnect with their partner, with their spouse, and really enjoy being married and loving their life again. So let's dive right in. And if you have any questions, certainly leave them in the comments. I'd love to know again, like who's watching, who's married. Pop a one in the comments if you are. So let's dive right in. So what I want to start off is with, before I get to the shifts, is what I see happening in most couples and why what they're currently doing isn't working, right? Because here's the thing. And I wrote a blog on this yesterday. It's kind of like when you think of it as like an iceberg, okay? And there's the top of the iceberg is what's sticking out of the water. And so traditional methods, or even the things that you may have tried on your own, are the tip of the iceberg, the things we can see, right? You're fighting all the time, there's a lot of conflict, you're not being kind to each other, you're just getting into these same repeating patterns of being reactive to each other, and you just don't know what to do about it. So maybe on your own, you've tried to make agreements, or you've said, we'll do better next time, we won't do it this way. And it doesn't work. Maybe change lasts for a couple of weeks, a couple of days, and then inevitably you find yourself back in those same patterns, right? Maybe you're somebody that has tried counseling before for your marriage. And what I know, especially as a former therapist of a number of years, 17 years, I know that traditional counseling methods don't work for couples, because what they do is they address that top of the iceberg piece, the symptoms, the fighting, the actual content of your arguments, right? So you're getting to trying to solve the problems without actually having a better way to talk to each other, right? And so if you're just trying to debate the facts of your arguments, then it's just never going to work. You're going to continue to go in circles. So a lot of the couples that I work with actually have made attempts to try and fix it on their own and haven't had a lot of success. They've also done the traditional therapy route and found that what they did was they just ended up repeating the same fights in the therapist's office, with the therapist sort of acting like, trying to put out the fire, so to speak, right? They're just sort of being mediator and trying to squash the fight, trying to negotiate the argument, and it just didn't work. So here's why, and this is where I want to get into sharing the shifts with you. Traditional methods, what you've been doing on your own, is really addressing the top of the iceberg, which is the symptoms, right? Maybe it's communication skills, which again, I do help couples with that, but communication skills alone are not going to address your issues. Communication skills like, we have to be a better listener, we not interrupt, or, one person speaks at a time, and we use I feel statements, and all of those things are actually great and things that I teach the couples that I work with as well, but alone they are not going to get to the deeper level root cause of the problems, right? So we're traditional methods, and what you're doing is getting to the symptom level right now, and that does not create lasting change, and you've probably already discovered that. um, I've been married for almost 21 years, and the reason I know this is because that's exactly what was going on in my marriage 10 years ago. It was the same thing. We were having the same arguments, and we were addressing symptom level issues, but not getting to the root cause. So today I'm going to share these two shifts with you, because these truly are the things that are going to make a difference, are going to really create the kind of lasting change that you've been craving. Okay, so let's talk about shift number one. Okay, so shift number one is turning your focus and your attention away from your partner and to yourself. So let me explain a little bit more. Most of us, and myself included, this was me in my own marriage, was I was focused on all the ways that my partner wasn't measuring up. I was focused on all the ways that he sucked, that he wasn't doing the things that I wanted him to do, that I thought to myself, these things are so simple. Like, why is this such a problem? Why can't he just do X, Y, and Z? And what happened was it would just be me pushing for that, wanting him to do that thing. And this is the same that I see in the couples that I work with. They come in, and when they come in, they're in a place of really just focusing on each other, blaming the other person, really wanting change from each other, but not focused on the change that they can make in themselves. And I totally get that, because the reason that we do that is because it's much harder to look at our own part of things. And I get that. Like, I wasn't looking at my own part either. So I get how hard that is. But what I've also discovered after doing it differently for so many years and feeling so much happier, not just in my marriage, but in my life, that focusing on the other person just is never going to work. So you have to. Shift number one is you have to turn your attention inward, right? Creating a better marriage, creating a better life starts first as an internal process. There's some internal transformation that has to take place in order for you to move the needle on your relationship. Because if you continue, wait 1 second, I'm just going to plug in my computer. If you continue to focus on your partner, you're going to continue to get the same results that you've gotten, right? And the reason that you're probably here and you're listening is because you're not happy with those results. You want something different, right? So turning your focus inward means not blaming your partner, right? Thinking about here's a couple of suggestions. Like, if I want my partner to be different or give to me in a certain way, what can I do? Or what am I doing currently that might be making it hard for them? And what could I do differently so that it's more likely I will get him to be open to giving me the things that I'm asking for or that I want, right? So we have to support our partner in giving us what it is we truly want. Because if we're always coming at them and just kind of we're nagging or we're criticizing, right? And you might not even realize that you're doing that. I mean, I didn't. I thought, like, I'm just asking for this thing. Like, why is it such a problem? But it really was what I couldn't see for myself, and most people can't see for themselves, is that how we're delivering our message is critical, is judgmental, is not being delivered in a way that's going to make anybody open to wanting to do something different, right? Or it's not going to make the other person want to give to you if they're feeling criticized, judged, um, and blamed, right? So the part that you can control is really looking at, how can I support my partner in giving me more of what I want? How can I show up as my best self? What am I doing now that I could truly sort of evaluate myself and know and decide, what am I doing that's really getting in the way here? What am I doing that I'm actually getting in my own way from receiving what I say that I want? And I actually had written a post about that the other day and shared my own experience of wanting more communication from my partner, wanting him to share his feelings. But the way that I was going about it was actually pushing away the very thing I wanted, because I was using all those ineffective, unhelpful strategies like nagging, criticizing, judging him, thinking it was so simple and wondering, well, it's just a quick fix. Like, why aren't you doing it? And so in doing that, I was actually pushing away, and I wasn't noticing maybe moments where he was trying to connect with me or communicate with me, because I had in my own mind a picture of what it was supposed to look like. And when it didn't match up with my vision, I just discredited it, right? I just dismissed it. I said, well, it's still not this, right? So that's shift number one. Hey, Jordan. So that's shift number one, really turning your focus inward. And I know that actually is one of the biggest challenges that the couples I work with have. And it may take some time to just really shift your mindset around that. I get that it's really hard, but it truly is a game changer when it comes to making a change, seeing transformation in your marriage, right? And so what I like to tell people too is, it's some couples, some partners get really caught up in the why should I have to? But what I want to share is that when you make these changes, you're not just benefiting your marriage, you're benefiting yourself in such a huge way, right? This work that you're doing is like an internal transformation that literally benefits every area of your life and will benefit every relationship you have. So you want to try and think of it not so much as like, why do I have to be the one? But hey, I get to be the one because I get to work on myself. And this is going to not just benefit my marriage, but benefit me in every area of my life, right? Okay, so that's shift number one. Let's talk to. I want to talk about shift number two, and this is also a really important one, and one again that doesn't get addressed in traditional methods and doesn't get addressed when we're talking about communication strategies. And so shift number two is changing your internal dialogue. Okay, and some of this goes along with like mindset too. And so what does that mean? Most people aren't even aware of the daily thoughts or the internal dialogue that goes on day in and day out. And for most who are stuck in a rut in their marriage and they're feeling frustrated or resentful, lonely, if they're feeling any of those things, then chances are they have this internal dialogue that might be something like, he'll never change, or this will never work. I'd probably be happier with somebody else, or why does he always have to do that? He's so inconsiderate. He doesn't respect me, and on and on and on. And for each person, that dialogue may look a little different depending on your circumstances. But the overarching theme is that it tends to be a story or a narrative or a belief, a thought pattern that doesn't serve you, right? That actually makes you feel worse. And what happens is we just believe this internal dialogue like it's the truth, like he really is a schmuck, and this marriage really is, failing. And so when we continue to practice those thoughts day in and day out, it just becomes our reality. And that actually feeds into the hopelessness about it being even possible to change. And like I was saying earlier, like when you have that internal dialogue or that mindset, you actually filter out other possibilities, other things that might actually be more positive, right? We miss the opportunities. Like I was missing my husband's attempts at connecting with me in a different way because all I could see was he never talks to me. He's so quiet. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to connect with me. He doesn't know how to be emotionally connected. There's something wrong with him, right? All of those thoughts kept me in a very negative mindset. And then I was unable to see other ways that he was really trying to connect with me, and other ways that he really cared for me and loved me because I was so practiced in these negative thoughts, right? So anyone here that's watching or listening, can you relate to that? Is this resonating with you? Like this idea of having this internal dialogue that is really filled with a lot of negative thoughts and beliefs. And it's not just about your partner, it's about your marriage, it's about yourself. And these are thoughts that we just, again, might not even be aware of. Because I know when I start to work with couples and we start to talk about some of the arguments that they have, and I will ask them, like, okay, so in that moment, what were you thinking? And they really have to pause for a moment because they're like, I don't know what I was thinking. Because what happens is all of this internal process, this internal dialogue becomes so automatic that we don't even know we're doing it, right? So after thinking about it for a while, then they start to realize and they start to become more aware of all the thoughts they've been thinking. And they're like, wow, right? They're really actually surprised. They didn't know they were having so many negative thoughts. And they also didn't realize that those negative thoughts are keeping them stuck in this place of not having what they want, of feeling really unhappy, right? So that is the other big shift, is you have to change that internal dialogue. You have to work on changing that if you truly want a different experience. Because as I'm sure many of you in this group, coaches, healers, we all know on an intellectual level that our thoughts, whatever we think becomes our reality. I think we all know that intellectually, but when it comes to ourselves, it's much harder to remember that, right? Because it's easy for us to see that in somebody else. It's much harder to see that in ourselves. And that's normal, right? That's just, we can't see our own blind spots and we can't see in ourselves what we see in others. So the first part of that is really spending more time being aware of your thoughts, being aware of that internal dialogue that's going on every day. And so in those moments, for example, like when you're triggered by your partner, something he does, something he says, if your typical response is, and I think for a lot of us it is when we're in this unhappy place, is to lash out or to react really quickly and blame the other person or criticize the other person. So in those moments when you're triggered, if you really want to get better at changing the internal dialogue, is when you're triggered, you want to stop, you want to pause, right? You want to go inside and figure out, like, okay, why am I being triggered right now? What am I making this mean? And you really want to get a handle on, what are these thoughts that I keep thinking, right? And then ask yourself, is this supporting the kind of relationship I truly want? Right? And that's another important piece, is like really thinking about, we get really stuck in the problem and focusing on the problem and what we don't want. But what we forget to do is think about what we do want, right? Because if we just stay stuck in the problem, then we just get more of the problem. We think about it, we complain about it, we show up that way. But if you really want something different, you have to think about what that is. What do you want? And then when you're clear on the kind of relationship you want, then you can think about like, okay, so what kinds of thoughts are going to support the kind of relationship I say that I want, right? So if you're repeatedly thinking all sorts of negative, critical thoughts, even about yourself, your partner, your marriage, that is not going to help you create a different kind of, a more connected, loving relationship. So when you're changing that internal dialogue, really think about what it is you want, what you would want your marriage to look like. How would it be different if these problems were gone? Because when we're focused on creating something different rather than just staying stuck in the problem, it's much easier to move forward. We have a goal in mind. We can see, what we're working towards. So anybody watching that is this resonating with you in terms of like the internal dialogue? Are you finding that you have a negative thought pattern? Have you been practicing that for a long time and maybe you're not even aware of it? And that could be a really good place to start, is to just really catch yourself in those moments. So just to recap before I finish up, is shift number one. I mean, both of these shifts are really about sort of the internal transformation. And the reason it's all about that is because, like I said earlier, the traditional methods of working on the symptoms, kind of the tip of the iceberg, the part that's outside of the water, the standard communication strategies, while those are good, if you don't get to the part of the iceberg that's under the water, right, getting to the root cause of things, then the transformation and the change is not going to last, right? And so that starts with a shift in your focus, a shift away from your partner and what they're doing or not doing, into the things that inside that, number one, you might be doing that's preventing you from having what you want. And number two, how do you support your partner in giving you more of it, what you want, and deciding how you want to show up as your best self. When I'm bringing my best self to the relationship, what does that look like? So shifting your focus inward, number one. Then the shift number two was really looking at that internal dialogue that is creating your current reality, right? And what you actually might be missing because you keep practicing these thoughts over and over and over again without much awareness. We have to really interrupt this automatic thought pattern, right? And without changing the thought pattern, if you try and make like a behavioral change, and this is what I see a lot, is couples who have tried to make a change, like they think, well, I just won't say anything. But if you avoid saying something, but inside you're still thinking, well, he's such an ass, I'm furious with him, this, he'll never change, then not saying anything isn't going to be helpful, right? Your thoughts really have to be aligned with the actions that you're taking and the kind of relationship that you really want to create. I mean, that's a really big mistake that people make, is they think like, well, I just have to hold my tongue. I just have to not say anything. And if you truly feel like, oh, that really didn't bother me, it's not a problem at all, like I'm just going to let it go, then that's fine. But if the thing is you're not saying anything, but inside you're fuming and you're thinking all sorts of horrible things about your partner, that's the kind of thing that just will ultimately lead to piles of resentment, right? You can't hold your tongue and feel resentful forever. Okay, so just to wrap it up too, I want to share that these are the exact things that I work on with my couples in my 6 week intensive, right? Because while these things might on paper sound simple, which they do sound simple, they're not easy changes to create on your own, because we're talking about changing thought patterns that are deeply ingrained, changing habits that are deeply ingrained, things that you've been practicing for a long time. And most people will struggle to make these kinds of changes on their own, right? And so they need that level of support, that level of accountability, and even just that level of instruction to help them figure out how they're getting in their own way, how they're keeping themselves stuck. And so this is exactly the work I do in my 6 week intensive with couples. And couples are seeing really big transformations in a short amount of time. And the reason they are is because we're getting to the root cause. We're not just addressing symptoms. And this is the piece that so many are missing. I was working with a couple. We're probably coming up on our 6 week this coming week, right? And they were in a really bad place, considering, like, I don't know if we can make this work, because they had fought so much that eventually they just were ignoring each other, living in the same house, constant tension, feeling uneasy, avoiding each other in their own home, not spending any time together, right? And this is where they were when they came to me. And now, just 6 weeks later, they came in yesterday, no, a few days ago, and they come in smiling, and they come in just feeling so light. And they're telling me they're spending time together, they're cooking together, they're laughing together, they are having fun together. And things that normally would have spiraled into a huge fight kind of don't even cross their radar anymore. Because what I told them is, like, when you have the tone of the relationship is negative, then every little thing is going to hit your radar, and every little thing is going to be a problem, like it was for them. But when they create an atmosphere of positivity, and they start to feel really good about each other again, and this is, this is true of anything. So now when these little things come up, they're not such big deals, right? They're still the same little things, but because there's so much more positive energy and a positive vibe between them now, those little things don't matter, right? And they are talking more openly and more honestly with each other than they ever have before. They truly have had an incredible transformation. And that is why I just love this work, and I'm so passionate about helping couples, because I know that they're missing this piece, and not a lot of people are teaching this, and certainly traditional therapy is not. And that's one of the reasons that I moved away from that, because I knew that this work was so much more powerful in helping people enjoy their marriage, avoid getting a divorce, avoid living unhappily, right? So this is the kind of transformation that you too could have if you're interested, if this resonated with you, this was helpful, and you're interested in having this kind of transformation and working together for 6 weeks to see what's possible for you. I would love to chat with you. So if you're interested, we could hop on a marriage breakthrough call, and on that call, I just learn more about your situation, and I can share with you even more in depth about how I work, and see if it's a fit for us to work together. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the comments for you to book a call with me if you're interested. And also up above, if you want to opt in for my free guide, 5 shifts so you can stop having the same old fight for good, as well as I have a Facebook group for women. Of course, we're all women here, but a Facebook group, and in that group, we are talking about all things improving your marriage. So again, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for joining me today on a Saturday, ladies, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Take care.